Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the JD Rucker Show. If you are watching the evening show, which starts at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, then awesome. If you're watching the daytime show, which starts at various times depending upon what's happening in the news, then that's awesome as well. But either way, you should find me wherever you want to find me, whatever platforms you use, Rumble, X, YouTube, BitChute, all the various networks, all the various areas where the show's broadcast. You can find all those, plus my websites, plus my socials, and even my sponsors. You can go to jdrucker.com/find, jdrucker.com/find. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. You're listening to the JD Rucker Show. Let's begin. Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the JD Rucker Show. What a weekend it was. I keep saying it every Monday, but it was another blistering weekend of news, and then followed up by a Monday with even more news. Currently, it looks like the ceasefire in the Middle East is over. Israel started bombing Hamas in Gaza once again. They had their temporary ceasefire starting on January 19th, and now it is officially over after Hamas refused to release the agreed-upon hostages. They released some of them. Of course, they got hundreds of terrorists back in return, but that's a discussion for another day. Point is that Middle East is back in play, back part of the ongoing series of conflicts happening across the globe. Vladimir Putin said that he wants assurances, concrete, ironclad assurances that Ukraine absolutely positively will never be a part of NATO. Otherwise, he will not sign any peace, truce, ceasefire, anything. And look, to be clear, this is not me being a Putin apologist, but that was the agreement way back when, okay? When they were talking about, the USSR was falling apart, Russia was going solo, the only assurance that they wanted, was that the former Soviet states would not become part of NATO. And they got their assurances. And we and NATO and everybody else seemed to renege on those almost instantaneously. It wasn't instantaneously, but it was pretty shortly after they had all agreed on this. That's when NATO started making exceptions, creeping further and further to the east, further and further, closer to the Russian border. And that was where they decided, you know what? Enough is enough. And again, I'm not trying to justify Russia's invasion of Ukraine, but I think that we here, especially if you still get your news from legacy media, chances are you don't know the full story behind the Russian war, the Russian invasion, everything that's happening in Ukraine and everything that's happened with NATO over the past 3 decades. It's not pretty, and on either side, to be clear. But let's just say that I can understand why Putin would want ironclad assurances of some sort. I'm talking with like massive financial payments or something. I don't even know how that you could make it ironclad, but something, because otherwise there just won't be peace in Ukraine, and that would be very unfortunate. We want peace. President Trump wants peace. He's doing everything he can to get it, and we're getting close. I think that it's going to happen. I just got to see a few more dominoes fall before that actually comes true. Joe Biden's kids, Hunter and Ashley Biden, have had their There's Secret Service details pulled by President Trump. It's funny because Laura Loomer she broke the story. This is like, look, whatever you think of Laura Loomer, she's been breaking some stories lately. Okay. She really has. And she has throughout her career, but she's on a kind of a hot streak lately with stories that she's getting out there. Of course, I've had her on my show. I'd have her on again if I can ever get a hold of her. She's kind of bigger now than she was when I had her on my show, but great for her. We'll see if we can't get her to come back on. But yeah, she broke the story of Hunter Biden, tracked him down and figured out that he's down in South Africa of all places. Not sure why, the vacation in South Africa, but that's where he is. And yes, he has a very large, I think it was like 18 agents on rotation there. And then, of course, Ashley Biden, I believe she has 13 agents protecting her. And President Trump says, no more. We're done. It's over. It's gone. We had quite a bit happening. I'm going to play a couple of stories that actually took place over the weekend, but they are worthy of being shown in today's show. And then the rest of it will come, of course, from today itself. One of the big stories that came out over the weekend was that the Democrats just aren't doing very well. Polls are showing that they are more hated now than perhaps they've ever been. I mean, you'd have to go back at least over 3 decades because that's how long CNN has been doing this particular poll. You'd have to go back very far beyond that poll because it was the worst poll they've ever had. NBC News did another poll and had similar results, so it's not like it's a one-off with CNN. The American people do not like the Democrat Party. And keep in mind, what makes it even sadder, I don't know if I mentioned this in the segment that I'm about to play, but this poll was done before their buckling, their failure, their infighting began over the continuing resolution. So I would imagine that there's even more hatred, more angst from Democrats themselves towards the Democrat Party. The other big story that happened over the weekend that I'm going to play that particular piece as a standalone is President Trump declared that the pardons and possibly the executive orders, I would argue it should include the laws that Joe Biden signed as well. But at the very least, the pardons that he had auto-pen signed, or somebody had auto-pen signed, that those no longer go into effect. Now, legacy media has been spending all day trying to say, well, it's not real, it's fake, it's not real, it's not happening. It happened, okay? I don't care if he announces it on Twitter or X or Truth Social or Facebook, or if he screams it out the White House windows, okay? When the president makes a decree, especially one that's very clear cut, the way that this was, then it's reality. Now, you can challenge it, of course, but you can't dismiss it. You can't just say, well, it's not really real. And no. That's not how the presidency works. Okay. No, he's not a king by any means. No, he's not an emperor. No, he's not a dictator. It's not like he can just do and say whatever he wants. But when he does make a statement such as what he did over the weekend, you can't just dismiss that as, oh, no big deal. We'll just ignore it. That's what they want you to think is happening. But reality is, I would say President Trump is well on his way to trying to bring people to justice, including and perhaps especially the members of the January 6th Unselect Committee. Speaking of ignoring, we did have what was going to be a major conflict, I think, between the White House and another federal judge. Stop me if you've heard this one. But there hasn't really been much of a conflict at all. They just ignored him. It was awesome. I mean, they just literally just said, hey, okay, so you want us to turn the planes around that are carrying Venezuelan gang members to El Salvador. You want us to turn those planes around. I see. How about no? And in this particular case, this is different from other orders from judges because the Trump administration has abided by the vast majority of orders. Now, they appeal them, and they're working their way through the court system. But in the meantime, they have acknowledged them and abided by them. This one was different. This one pertains to an act of war, an invasion that was happening at our southern border, an invasion of militants, in many cases gang members. And so the president invoked an act from the 18th century that is still, doesn't matter when it's invoked or when it came about, it's still on the books, and President Trump is using it. And as a result, there was no turning back the airplanes and bringing back the rapists and murderers and everybody else that this Obama-backed judge had wanted them to do. So hopefully this is a sign for the future. I am not one who's in favor of getting rid of the judiciary's abilities to make such decrees, because it might be hurting us now, but it's something that we can use as a tool in the future if we do have to oppose an oppressive, tyrannical federal government, or even if we have to oppose a state government. There are certain times when getting federal judges involved, even in state cases, or let's say the scenario where a state itself is going up against the federal government, there are times when we need an avenue, and this is the avenue through which we can halt, or in some cases reverse, the incorrect or unconstitutional actions of a tyrannical federal government. Of course, it's being used in lawfare against President Trump's administration now, but that doesn't mean that we need to scrap the system. We need to fix the system, and I've explained in previous episodes how that can and should be done. Ideally, it would be done through legislation, but right now we couldn't get Democrats to hop on board in that. So no chance that we would get voted. I guess we need 7 Democrats to make that happen. Not going to happen. So the best way that it can be done is for Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts to make a ruling that any suits, any judgments or decisions or anything else, whatever, even like temporary restraining orders, if they are applied to the White House, then those cases get expedited straight to the Supreme Court, where it can be decided post haste. That, I think, would, number one, it would alleviate a lot of the delays that we're having in the implementation of President Trump's agenda. Number two, it would, I believe, dissuade judges from ruling like morons. It's like, okay, cool, I'm going to rule that you can't do this. I know that it's, I'm going against the Constitution, but by golly, I'm woke and I want to do it. They would feel less inclined to do so if they knew that their case would be heard and almost certainly reversed once it got to the Supreme Court a day or two later. So, ball's in John Roberts' hands. Hopefully, he is willing to do something about it. We had egg prices going down. And as the egg prices go down, so does the coverage from legacy media of everything that's happening with those egg prices. So I'll be covering that today. We had JFK Jr., the JFK, not Junior, the JFK files. I don't even want to say it. I don't want to jinx it, but it appears that tomorrow, Tuesday, if you're watching on the East Coast, then today, as if you're watching live, Tuesday, we're going to get the JFK files released. And they have DNI Tulsi Gabbard is the one in charge of that, apparently. That's awesome. As long as it's not Pam Bondi. Don't get me started on Pam Bondi. I know President Trump likes her. I know that a lot of you folks out there like her. I don't. She spends more time doing Fox News interviews than she does actually bringing about the massive course correction and revamping of the Department of Justice, which is what's required, which is what she should be spending her time on today until the Epstein files, RFK files, Epstein files, JFK files, MLK files, Diddy files. Till those are out, I don't think she has time to go on Fox News. And I would argue that it's more than that. I want to see what happened with Mandalay Bay. I want to see what's happened, what they know about Maui. There's so many things that we need to understand, that we need to have a clearer understanding of what happened. And I mean, I can actually probably, and I should probably do an entire show of all the things that we want the Trump administration, the Department of Justice, Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, Pam Bondi, all of them. We want to get some information while we've got the opportunity under President Trump. So let's make that happen. That does sound like that'd be a fun show. I've done a lot of research into Stephen Paddock and the entire Mandalay Bay, Las Vegas shooting from 2017. I want answers. That's still just a black hole. I mean, we know they were able to figure out the entire life story of grandmas walking through the Capitol building, but yet we still know nothing about the Las Vegas mass shooting. We know nothing about the first Matthew Crooks, the first would-be Trump assassin. Where are the files? That's what I want to see. I want to see the information. I want it disseminated in its entirety, without redactions and without delay. Big show today. Big show today. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let me see. Yeah, let's go ahead. We're gonna do one ad, and then we'll get straight into the stories. There's a rush, a gold rush, going on right now, not just by central banks, not just by entire countries, not just by those trying to refill Fort Knox before Elon Musk and President Trump get there. No, there's a gold rush happening amongst individual Americans. It's a gold and silver rush, and it's specifically attracting people of retirement, of or near, I should say, retirement age. People are starting to realize that maybe they don't need their IRAs or 401ks or whatever stuck in the stock market. Maybe they should be looking at physical precious metals like gold and silver. Now, I am not a financial advisor, so I'm not going to give you advice. I'm just going to tell you who to talk to if you've already made up your mind and you think maybe I should consider it. Go to jdrgold.com, jdrgold.com, or call 800-200-4653. That's 800-200-GOLD. And check out what the folks over at Genesis Gold Group can do for you. They are a faith-driven precious metals company. They don't do the scams, the cheats, the tactics, such as, offering free or bonus silver. It's never free, and it's not really a bonus. You're paying for it. They just tack it onto the price and then say, "Oh, look, here's free, here's bonus." No. It's they probably have a good role to play in government, at least the old government. I would imagine that Doge and Elon Musk would sniff out their scams. But if you want to deal with a direct and honest company to do a tax-free rollover or transfer of your IRA, go to jdrgold.com, jdrgold.com. You'll receive a free definitive wealth protection kit. Plus, you will be contacted by my good friends at Genesis Gold Group. Democrats suffer their worst CNN polling in network history. And it's all actually by design. I'll explain the by design aspect here in a second. But first, let's bask in the glory of this incredible poll. That incredible if you are a Republican or if at the very least you don't hate America. This poll is very good because it demonstrates the backlash against the Democrat Party that is crumbling upon itself, within itself, around itself. And here is CNN's Manu Raju as he tries to hold back leftist tears.
First up this morning, a brand new exclusive CNN poll that paints a brutal reality for Democrats as they struggle to mount a unified opposition to President Trump. Americans' favorable views of the Democratic Party's brand are at a record low, just 29%. That's compared to 36% for Republicans. It is the lowest ever recorded for Democrats in CNN polling, going back more than 30 years.
It's good to watch Manu man up and not crumble like his preferred party is currently in the process of doing. This is a big deal, but two things that we must note. Number one, it's early. Don't start gloating just yet. We can embrace this and say, okay, so the people are waking up. That's the more important news to me, is that the people are starting to realize just how backwards and demented in many ways the Democrat Party is, and their policies are even more disgusting. But number two, we cannot view this as a sign that the Democrats are toast. The Democrat establishment appears to be toast. Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, they are done. Okay, their control over the party is slipping away to the point of, I would argue that the future of the party is, well, AOC, Jasmine Crockett, people like that. And that's actually good news. I'll explain that here in a second. But what is going to happen to the old timers, the Democrat establishment, the quote unquote moderates, I guess you could call them, if that's even has any meaning when referring to the Democrat Party of today. But yes, I would expect Chuck Schumer is going to get primaried by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and I would expect that his party is actually going to encourage him to retire and to back her. I think we'll see the same thing in San Francisco with former Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi. I believe Saikat Chakrabarty, who actually coincidentally used to be AOC's chief of staff, I think that he is going to rise up, and the same thing is going to happen there. She's going to announce sometime between now and the primaries next year that she is not going to run for re-election. She is going to retire and go off and hopefully she's made enough millions off of her stock market cheating to to be able to retire well. And when I say hopefully, I'm saying hopefully for her. I don't care what she does as long as she gets out of D.C. But replacing her with Saikat Chakrabarty, replacing Chuck Schumer with AOC and whoever they determine will be the Senate Minority Leader, God forbid, Senate Majority Leader, that is not necessarily great news because we are talking about an even further leftward lurch for the Democrat Party. On the other hand, I think that it could be very good news for us because this could be the final iteration of the Democrats' failed attempt to become the most radical party of all time. If, in 2026, voters continue to rebuke the Democrat Party, just as they did in 2024, then we could actually see gains in the House, gains in the Senate, and we could see people like Saikat Chakrabarty and AOC and, gosh, please let Jasmine Crockett be on that list. We could finally see people like that become obsolete all of a sudden. I'm not suggesting that the party's going to continue to be a bunch of old white people running the party the way that it is today, ironically. But I don't know if the radical nature of people like Chakrabarty and AOC, if that will persist. I hope it does. I know that sounds weird, but I hope that they continue to be as unhinged and radical as possible because it just makes it easier come general election time for Republicans to be able to defeat them. But on the other hand, if they are able to get into power, that's where, God forbid, they will be able to do the most possible damage. So in any other election year, I would actually be concerned because rejuvenating a party, adding in fresh blood, bringing in new faces, that's usually a good sign for them. That's a way for them to bounce back and for them to be able to do a whole lot of stuff. Many could argue that the Tea Party was an example of that, and we have Marco Rubio sitting there in Secretary of State as an example. Granted, he abandoned the Tea Party shortly after getting into Senate and meeting John McCain. But point is that was an example from the Republican side of a rejuvenation of the party through fresh faces. The same thing could happen for the Democrats in 2026, but I don't think it will. The reason that I don't think it will is because I do believe we are on track as a nation to finally recover. I don't think that the bulk of Americans, including Democrats, by the way, want to go back to open borders. We've seen amazing results from Tom Homan, from ICE, and from border crossings in general that have just slowed to a trickle. Americans don't want to go back. So we've seen egg prices. Oh, the leftist media, legacy media was all over that. Oh my gosh, egg prices are skyrocketing under Trump. And then as soon as they started dropping back down dramatically, all of a sudden it's like, oh, let's not talk about eggs ever again. That's legacy media for you. But the other reason that I do believe we have an opportunity here to expand on Republican majorities despite this rejuvenation of the Democrat Party is because legacy media, which has been backing Democrats this entire time, they are losing power. They are losing control. They are becoming just as obsolete as Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. Here's why President Trump absolutely can reverse Joe Biden's pardons. Late Sunday night, President Trump took to Truth Social and dropped an absolute bombshell. He declared that the pardons that were signed by President signed on behalf of President Biden or his interns or aides or Taco Jill or Hunter or whoever was actually in charge of the White House at the time, that those pardons are no longer in effect, according to his post. On Truth Social, the quote-unquote pardons that Sleepy Joe gave to the Unselect Committee of political thugs and many others are hereby declared void, vacant, and of no further force or effect because of the fact that they were done by Autopen. In other words, Joe Biden did not sign them, but, more importantly, he did not know anything about them. The necessary pardoning documents were not explained to or approved by Biden. He knew nothing about them, and the people that did may have committed a crime. Therefore, those on the Unselect Committee who destroyed and deleted all evidence obtained during their 2-year witch hunt of me and many other innocent people should fully understand that they are subject to investigation at the highest level. The fact is, they were probably responsible for the documents that were signed on their behalf without the knowledge or consent of the worst president in the history of our country, Crooked Joe Biden. Now, this, my friends, is what you call an actual bombshell. People throw around the word bombshell all the time. This is the real deal. This means that people such as Liz Cheney, people such as Adam Schiff, and then he did mention that it's not just the people that were on the select committee on J6, it was also people, other people such as, maybe Anthony Fauci. Please let that be the case, that their pardons are no longer in effect. All of this started a couple of weeks ago when we reported that Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey had sent a letter to Pam Bondi, Attorney General, saying that he was calling into question and asking for an investigation into whether or not Joe Biden was even aware of the pardons, if he had the mental capacity to be able to make that call, and if he wasn't able to make that call, who made the call? And if it wasn't the President of the United States explicitly, then he, Andrew Bailey, believes that all of the pardons should be null and void. That's what launched all of this. So Andrew Bailey deserves credit, as do, unfortunately, I don't remember the names of the various people, the organizations that were involved, but there were actually a couple of groups that went through and they started examining the Autopen, or examining the signatures of Joe Biden for these pardons and for other documents, and came to the conclusion that the vast majority of quote-unquote signatures from the president were actually done by Autopen. For those who don't know what Autopen is, it's a device, okay? It's a metal device. You actually physically put a pen in it, you put the document in it, and you tell it where to sign it, and it duplicates the signature. It is a signature. Again, it's done by pen. It's not like printed on there or anything. It's not a stamp. It actually physically signs with a pen onto the document. And it has been used before. Barack Obama used Autopen quite often. So it's not like this is something new, but it's important that what President Trump had said. He said that it was done by Autopen, and that's important because that demonstrates a method through which others could make decisions on behalf of the President of the United States. They don't need Joe Biden to be aware of anything. They just have Autopen and they can sign whatever they want. That's why he said, more importantly, he mentioned the Autopen, but more importantly, he said Joe Biden, did not know anything about them. The necessary pardoning documents were not explained to or approved by Biden. Now, that's a declarative statement. He's not saying we're going to look into, we're going to investigate. I believe that President Trump and his team, they have information that leads them to believe that Joe Biden was completely incapacitated mentally and was unaware of the documents. I don't know if he's got whistleblowers. I don't know what they've got, but I would imagine that they have something, because the Autopen argument, everybody's been making the Autopen argument. I get it. I understand. It sucks. It's like, well, that it's done by Autopen. It's not the president's signature. Therefore, but again, we've talked about this in the past. Barack Obama has used it in the past. It was never brought into question. I mean, it was questioned, but it was never, didn't lead to avoiding of any documents. So there's no precedent there. And some would argue that that's not the bigger deal. The bigger deal is whether or not Joe Biden even knew or was aware or was even capable of being aware of these documents. You had Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, anecdotally during an interview, mentioning a story about how he was talking to Joe Biden one time about asking him questions about the executive order that he'd signed regarding banning of exporting liquid natural gas. And Joe Biden's like, I didn't sign an executive order about that. I signed an executive order about a study into liquid natural gas. And Johnson's like, no, Mr. President, you actually did sign a ban on the exports of liquid natural gas. Joe Biden was apparently surprised by this, but it was his executive order. So how could he be surprised by an executive order that he had allegedly signed just like a week before? There is a lot of evidence out there. Granted, most of it anecdotal, but I can assume, I would hope, that the president's attorneys, the White House attorneys, are on top of this. They have collected information. They are aware. Which leads me to the other person who I believe should get a lot of credit, and that is Kara Castronova. She is a reporter for the Gateway Pundit. She's also the White House correspondent for Lindell TV. And as that correspondent, last week, she was in a White House press conference, and she asked White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt about Autopardon. What is the administration doing? What does President Trump think? Yada, yada, yada. And Carolyn Leavitt, she's like, I actually don't know. I'm not familiar with that. She's like, I'll have to look into it. And it's conspicuous that the very next day is when President Trump started posting for the first time about Autopardon. He started talking about it and mentioning it during interviews. Over the weekend, let me see if I've got this. Over the weekend, he posted a meme. I do have it. He posted this meme, no words to it, just this picture that we have on the screen. You got Trump 45 smiling. You got Trump 47 looking very serious. And then right in between, you have 46. Instead of a picture of Joe Biden, you have a picture of Joe Biden's signature being signed by Autopardon. Funny stuff. So Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey deserves credit. The various organizations that looked into the Autopardon scandal, they deserve credit. Kara Castronova over at Lindell TV deserves credit. Now the ball is in the president and his administration's court, and it seems as if they are running with it. Now, of course, there's going to be two arguments. The lawsuits, I'm sure, are already being filed that say, no, he can't do that. That's abuse of power. He can't undo Joe Biden's pardons. And technically speaking, they would be correct, except for the fact that I don't think these were Joe Biden's pardons. Because there's only two. Keep in mind, according to the Constitution, the president has very sweeping and absolute pardonabilities when it comes to federal crimes. I mean, there's very little said about it in the Constitution, and rightly so, and there's nothing said about reversing it. Okay? Like, it doesn't even give even a hint that a pardon could ever be reversed. There's only two criteria for a pardon to go into effect. Criteria number one is that it has to be delivered. In other words, you can't it's not like as soon as the president signs the pardon, that person's pardoned. The documents have to be physically delivered to all the appropriate parties. I'm assuming like the warden at the jail and the attorney general or district attorney and the convicted person's attorneys and probably the convicted person themselves. They all have to be served the documents that say that this person is pardoned. And then at that moment, it goes into effect. Criteria number two is that the president himself has to be the one that signs it. So now, again, I think that the Autopardon play, I know everybody's leaning on that one. I don't think it's a strong case. Okay, I think that the real case here is Biden's mental acuity. I don't think he had it. I think it's very easy. They will be able to demonstrate very clearly that Biden was not capable of signing, was not capable of being aware of what was being signed on his behalf, and was not told. I believe that, and I'm assuming they will give evidence to this regard, that he wasn't even aware. He didn't know, that he couldn't be made aware. He wasn't retaining information anymore. His dementia was too far gone. The question isn't whether or not that's the case, it's when did that start? How far back does it go? How many documents can we make null and void? President Trump is focused on the J6 committee, and I understand that. That they are the pardons that really chap his khakis the most. I myself am hoping for Anthony Fauci's pardon to be reversed. That's the big one that I would love to see. And there are other people that got pardoned that now now may be in jeopardy once again, may have to face justice once again. My only piece of advice to Anthony Fauci, to Adam Schiff, to Liz Cheney, and all of their unfriendly cohorts, my advice to you would be this: lawyer up. President Trump announced that the JFK files are going to be released on Tuesday. Now, we've sort of been here before a couple times. The JFK files were supposed to be released during President Trump's first term. They did not get fully released. And of course, the Epstein files were supposed to be released by Pam Bondi in the second term, and we're still waiting on those. Had a false positive. Oh, they're being released. And then they weren't. They got binders of old data instead. But we'll see. I'm actually more hopeful about this one for two reasons. Number one, it's not Pam Bondi going on Fox News declaring that this is going to be released. This is actually President Trump himself who is coming out and saying it. And I think that there's far less of a chance that anyone is going to get in his way or make him look bad as a result by not fully releasing them. But number two, and perhaps more importantly, this is Tulsi Gabbard in charge, not Pam Bondi. The Director of National Intelligence is the one who's apparently responsible for this. Here, watch President Trump's announcement.
But while we're here, I thought it would be appropriate. We are tomorrow announcing and giving all of the Kennedy files. So people have been waiting for decades for this, and I've instructed my people that are responsible. Lots of different people put together by Tulsi Gabbard, and that's going to be released tomorrow. We have a tremendous amount of paper. You've got a lot of reading. I don't believe we're going to redact anything. I said, just don't redact. You can't redact. But we're going to be releasing the JFK files, and that would be tomorrow. Do you have anything else to add to that, Carolyn? So that's a big announcement. They've been waiting for that for decades. Then I said during the campaign I'd do it, and I'm a man of my word. So tomorrow you have the JFK files. What time will they be released?
Tomorrow afternoon.
Tomorrow afternoon, okay.
Have you seen what's in the files? Have you read them?
I've heard about them.
Was there,
Anything interesting?
It's going to be very interesting.
was there an executive summary supplied to you, Mr. President?
No, I'm not doing summaries. You'll write your own summaries. It's many pages. Is it 80,000 pages? Approximately 80,000 pages. So it's a lot of stuff. And you'll make your own determination.
Seems fairly definitive to me. Wasn't crazy about the sort of wishy-washiness about any redactions. I would like it declared no redactions, nothing, just get it all out there for sure, 100% certain. It seemed like, we want no redactions. I want a declaration. But we'll see. We can wait one more day. We've been waiting for 6 decades. Speaking of 6 decades, there's 2 points that need to be made. Number one, let us pray that nothing happens to President Trump, to Tulsi Gabbard, to the files, to anybody involved. We don't want this to be disrupted by an extraordinarily desperate deep state that is currently, they spent 6 decades keeping this covered up. And there are still people alive who participated in the cover-up. And there are also organizations such as the Central Intelligence Agency that participated in the cover-up. And there are very likely foreign relationships, we'll say, that could be hampered as a result of what many people are expecting to come from the JFK files. So we will see how that goes. But number two, if I'm making a bold prediction, I would expect something big to drop tomorrow. This is their standard operating procedure, their game plan. When they have news or information that they want to be dispelled or, I guess, just pushed aside. I mean, this is a huge deal. Okay, we've been waiting for a very long time to get access to the truth regarding the JFK assassination. I would anticipate that the globalist elite cabal, the deep state, the uniparty swamp, they're going to drop some sort of bombshell tomorrow because that's what they always do. Could be something, I don't know, Nancy Pelosi announces her retirement and then all of the news channels have an excuse to cover something else big other than the JFK files. The legacy media does not want to be forced into covering this because it's their puppet masters will be exposed. So I would anticipate that tomorrow something big, some sort of big news will drop, and it will be used to offer another big talking point for legacy media to fill their shows up with. We will, unless it's something crazy bad, we will, of course, stay focused on the JFK files. We will try to get access to them as quickly as possible, and it's 80,000 pages, so I'm not going to read them all, but hopefully larger news outlets out there will have teams of people combing through them and finding the bombshells that we can then report on in as real time as possible. So stay tuned. Be sure to tune in tomorrow night to the JD Rucker Show, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, and you can do it tonight as well, but if you're on the East Coast. But yeah, this is big. This is one of President Trump's biggest promises, one that we've been waiting for a very long time for. So, Lord willing, tomorrow we will be able to declare promise made, promise kept. Here's a true story. I was testing out some coffee. This has been almost a year ago. Testing out some coffee for a potential sponsor. And I had made the coffee, and I went about my morning routine, did my work, doing my thing, and then I took my first sip of coffee. And it struck me. I'm like, holy crap. I had forgotten that I had was testing out this new coffee. I just took the first sip, and I was like, wow, this is really good. And then I remembered, oh my gosh, this is Promised Grounds. This is the stuff that they sent me. So I started drinking some more of it, and I have become a lifetime customer of Promised Grounds. They are a Christian coffee company, which I know you don't see a whole lot of them. They give back to the community. They're Texas, all American, all Texan, just like a lot of the stuff that we do. Check them out. Go to jdrucker.com/coffee, jdrucker.com/coffee, and check out Promised Grounds. It's great. Anybody who's watched my show throughout the Biden-Harris regime, you're probably very well aware that I've been bullish about physical precious metals throughout. And I remain bullish, to be clear, even though obviously we're in a completely different and far better era under President Trump. I still remain bullish about gold and silver, and you can see in the spikes in prices recently of gold and silver that I have good reason to be. But here's the thing. When it came to cryptocurrencies under the Biden-Harris regime, I was very skeptical, always have been, because I just didn't trust them. I did not trust that a government that prides itself on authoritarianism would be able to handle a decentralized currency such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the like. Well, now we are in the Trump era, and all of a sudden I'm bullish about crypto and the potential future there, especially as it pertains to one's retirement. Now, I think everybody and their dog is aware that they can back their retirement with physical precious metals such as gold and silver. I've been promoting that for a while. You can always go to jdrgold.com for that. But the addition, now that we are in 2025 and things seem to be very much on their way in the direction that we expected them to go economically under President Trump, all of a sudden, I am now bullish about protecting and potentially growing your retirement accounts through cryptocurrencies. These, like I said, it took me a while. I was skeptical because I thought, oh, they're gonna come out with a central bank digital currency. Well, Trump outlawed those. They're going to come out with de-dollarization and the BRICS. Well, Trump's taking care of that. All right, so what do we have left? Now we have an upside for cryptocurrencies, and I am very, very pleased to recommend going to jdrucker.com/crypto, jdrucker.com/crypto, and find out if a crypto-backed IRA is right for you. Democrats despair over dropping egg prices. It's funny because my longtime Democrat source, who I've been using for, going on 8 years, very close source within the inner workings of the Democrat Party, hasn't said anything for months. I mean, it's been a very long time since I've heard from this particular source. And they sent me a text this morning. I got all excited. It's like, oh my gosh, what is it? And it reads, Quick note, the word egg is no longer allowed to be uttered by any of the Democrats. You can't make that up. That's it. I mean, that was the extent of the text, and I know what it refers to. Of course, for the several weeks, the word egg was on every broadcast of every legacy media outlet, spoken by every Democrat at every moment, because egg prices were skyrocketing. But then, for now, the last 3 weeks or so, egg prices have been dropping dramatically. I mean, faster than I could have possibly imagined the egg prices would drop. And now you're hearing nary a word from legacy media nor Democrats ever mentioning anything that has to do with eggs. The funny part is this, is that the egg prices were going up directly because of actions taken by the Biden-Harris regime. They'd been going up throughout his entire administration. And then, culminating in the tremendous egg prices, record egg prices just a few weeks ago. And everybody was like, oh, that's because of Trump. That's because of Trump. It's like, no, it's not. But now that the egg prices have begun dropping based directly on the actions made by the Trump administration, now all of a sudden, not only are they not talking about eggs, but in the very rare instance where they mention the word eggs, they do so in a way that is, they don't put the word Trump anywhere near that particular equation.
Finally, there is some good news. These are staples in all of our fridges. A lot of people love eggs. Many of us have them. And finally, I have some good news for you. The USDA says wholesale egg prices dropped for the third straight week, and it's a pretty big drop. The average wholesale price nationwide fell to $4.15 per dozen. So let's put that in perspective. That is down about $2.70 in just 1 week. Prices were over $8 at the end of last month. So part of the reason for the steep drop is people were put off by those high prices, so demand is lower. The other reasons, experts say, are because bird flu outbreaks have decreased. And get this, Easter is really late this year, so demand isn't that high right now. However, USDA also says declines haven't been reflected at store shelves yet, so you still may see those higher prices. But experts say consumers should start to see those prices drop by the time Easter finally rolls around, just in time to dye those Easter eggs.
Oh, those, what was it, NBC? Maybe I didn't even notice. Whoever it was, I think it was ABC News. They were so happy that egg prices are dropping, and it's because of the Easter being late, or it's because bird flu is subsiding, or you know what I heard, according to sources over at ABC News, I heard that the Easter Bunny himself has been subsidizing eggs, and therefore that's why the egg prices are dropping. Just definitely has absolutely nothing to do with actions by the Trump administration. There's an article over at Zero Hedge that highlights their despair, the despair of the Democrat Party and their lapdogs in legacy media. Egg price collapse scrambles Democrats' inflation propaganda against Trump. Democrats just had their egg-related misinformation. It's in 2025. That's a phrase. Egg-related misinformation. Gotta love it. Democrats just had their egg-related misinformation and disinformation campaign against the president scrambled as new USDA data reveals a third consecutive week of price declines at supermarkets. The drop follows President Trump's recent countermeasures to stabilize national supply after the Biden-Harris administration, their reckless culling of 150 million egg-laying hens plunged the industry into turmoil and sparked eggflation. Even leftist ABC News. Even leftist ABC News had to acknowledge falling USDA egg prices. Of course, they didn't acknowledge President Trump or his administration's role in that, but whatever. This follows weeks of Democrats and leftist corporate media attempting to pin the egg crisis on Trump. And if you're looking at the screen, you can see this from Time Magazine, a post from a week ago. Democrats bank on egg prices to undermine Trump. Notice the explosion in egg prices, stories in corporate media. This is via Bloomberg. If you can see on the screen, you'll see, people were talking about eggs apparently for some reason back in 2022, and then a little bit in 2023, and in 2024. But all of a sudden, come 2025, and that was the number one topic of discussion but it's not anymore. USDA egg prices hit a historic high of $8.17 per dozen on March 3rd, roughly 2 weeks ago. Since then, prices have more than halved. My goodness, look at that on the screen. Would you look at that? That's crazy. And you'll notice that it's actually far below where the prices were. Not only since President Trump has been president, but also since even the election. You'll notice that the prices were even higher during the election than they are today. Amazing. nice meme of Forrest Gump, and just like that, the left stopped caring about eggs. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. It's great stuff there. So now they're going to find a new narrative to attack President Trump on. But here's the thing. The attacks are always going to come. They're always going to be one-sided. It's always going to be just as the legacy media was defending Biden no matter what up until his debacle on the national stage during the debate with President Trump. Other than that, or before that, they were running cover for him. They were talking about how he's just sharp and awesome and amazing, and how, you might think that you're broke. You might look at your bank account and realize that you're broke. You might be struggling to keep a job or 2 jobs or 3 jobs. But by golly, that Biden economy, Bidenomics is really working. That's what they were telling you. Now that the economy is quickly recovering. The economy is looking in very good shape, not across the board. There are challenges, and there will be challenges, because for Trump to accomplish what he needs to accomplish through tariffs and other economic measures, there are going to be rough times. He said it. Lutnick won't say it because he's an eternal optimist, but everybody else in the Trump administration is saying, hey, there's going to be rough times ahead, and there will be. But we have to just remember that no matter what the narrative is, if it's coming from legacy media, it's a lie. Don Lemon should be the strategist, the chief strategist for the Democrat Party, because this guy, he really has a deep interest. I'm making a plea to the DNC, to the Senate Democrats and House Democrats and whatever Democrat organizations are out there. Act Blue. You all should get behind Don Lemon, because this guy really knows what he's talking about. Watch this.
People love AOC. People love Jasmine Crockett. People love Eric Swalwell and the like. And I think that the Democratic Party should put the people out there who the people want. They should put the politicians out there who the people want, who they're asking for, who are meeting the moment with the same energy that
they're not asking for AOC.
Yes, they are.
Yes, they do. No, Don, they don't. I don't agree with Bill Maher very often, but in this case, he's absolutely right. They don't want AOC, and they really don't want Jasmine Crockett, and they don't care about Eric Swalwell. The people, including, I'm talking just the Democrat Party, let alone, don't even get me started on independents and Republicans, but the Democrat Party, they do not want AOC to be their face. They don't want Jasmine Crockett to be their chief whatever intellectual. They don't want Eric Swalwell being the trustworthy man of the party. Don Lemon is just flat out wrong, but we don't want to tell them that. I can tell you, my awesome patriotic audience, that Don Lemon is so far gone in that perspective. It's not even funny. But hey, let's let Democrats hope that they listen to him instead of Bill Maher on this particular topic, because that would be awesome. I would love to go into 2026 thinking that AOC and Jasmine Crockett and Eric Swalwell were the representatives, the new leaders of the up-and-coming Democrat Party. I did a segment earlier regarding Democrat strategies going into 2026 and the idea that they are going to get rid of the old guard. They're in the process of getting rid of the old guard. They want Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and all those guys to basically just step away, retire, resign, whatever, in honor, in disgrace, doesn't matter, just get out of the way. Democrats are struggling to find their identity. They are still, they went into the last election trying to somehow appeal to the younger generation with a party that was led by very old white people. And yeah, you say, well, but Kamala Harris, yeah, but she she has the, I mean, I didn't want to talk about it much because during the election, because it really, I don't get into personalities, but let's face it, Kamala Harris has the personality of like a very, very old person. I'm not saying that like from perspective of like wisdom or anything like that. I'm saying that she's about as likable as a cackling old lady. Okay, I mean she's right there with like Hillary Clinton as far as wow, or even Nancy Pelosi. They have the same personality types. It's very, very odd and off-putting actually because Kamala Harris is not that old. But here's the thing, Don Lemon, and there's obviously more to that clip. If you want to watch the rest of it, if you want to hear Don Lemon's his arguments, which they're bad, I won't play them because just the opening statement alone is enough to give you an idea of what he's trying to say. Reality is that as he tried to explain his perspective, as he was trying to make his sales pitch to Bill Maher of all people as to why he's right, I could feel my brain cells starting to just slowly wilt away and melt. It was just like, oh my gosh, I can't put my audience through this. It was like 2.5 minutes of the dumbest thing you could ever possibly hear. So let's hope that Don Lemon is anointed as the chief strategist for the Democrat Party going forward, because he's got some ideas, folks. He's, man, Eric Swalwell. Yeah, that guy, totally likable, no problems with spies or anything like that. He's just, he's the pure, tried and true Democrat. He's their face man. Oh, and then Jasmine Crockett. I mean, rocket scientist. She was an attorney, She got her law degree, and she has been able to demonstrate just how brilliant she is with every utterance she makes while on Capitol Hill. And as far as AOC goes, I will admit she is starting to at least act more like a full-blown politician. She has been DC corrupted, as I like to say, and they all do. The longer you're in Washington, D.C., the more corrupted you get. It's contagious. You can't avoid it. I mean, anybody who starts to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm getting corrupted, they either resign or they get primaried out, okay? Madison Cawthorn, or they lose their election or whatever, because if you cannot be corrupted, they don't want you there. The only people they allow are those who get corrupted. I'm talking specifically about Capitol Hill. I'm not talking about bureaucrats. I'm not talking about presidents. That's a whole different set of corruption types. I'm talking specifically about legislators. They do get corrupted. They get hit from every angle. They get blackmailed, bribed, bullied, everything. And it appears that AOC is starting to succumb to some of that corruption. She, again, starting to sound more like a regular politician, just a little bit whinier and more dim-witted than even your average dim-witted politician. So, with all that said, Don Lemon, I am making the case for you to be the next master strategist, the leader of the strategy for the Democrat Party. America's dependence on Taiwan's AI hardware must end, and it must end as quickly as humanly possible. We are currently completely and utterly beholden to Taiwan and Taiwanese companies when it comes to artificial intelligence. We may be leading the AI revolution, and even that's debatable. But if our relationship with Taiwan were to change, then so would our dominance in the AI field. If, let's say, they were to align with communist China, which is 69 miles away, then we would be dead in the water when it comes to AI. And that's whether by choice, which is possible. We always assume that Taiwan won't ever want to be part of China, but you never know. Or by force, which seems unlikely, but we're talking about communist China here. They are in dire straits economically. It would not be absolutely shocking if they were to invade Taiwan, as they have threatened to do, subtly threatened to do for many years now. So Elon Musk went on with Ted Cruz and issued a warning about our current dependency on Taiwan.
Are we winning right now? Is America winning right now? And how likely is America to win the race for AI vis-a-vis China or anyone else?
For the next few years, I think America is likely to win. Then it will be a function of who controls the AI chip fabrication. The factories that make the AI chips, who controls them? If more of them are controlled by China, then China will win.
More of the factories that are making the AI chips. You think that will determine it?
Yes.
And how are we doing versus China on that front?
Well, right now, almost all the advanced AI chip factories, they call them fabs, are in Taiwan.
And what if China invades Taiwan?
69 miles away from.
Yeah. What happens if China? If China invades Taiwan, what happens to the world?
Well, if they were to invade in the near term, the world would be cut off from advanced AI chips.
And
currently, 100% of advanced AI chips are made in Taiwan.
How fast could we put that online in America, and how important is that for national security?
I think it's essential for national security, and we're not doing enough.
You know, Musk is often known for his robustness of warnings, his oftentimes hyperbole. But if anything, I would think that he was being a little bit muted there with his warnings. To say that it's important, that's an understatement. It is absolutely critical for us to take charge of our own AI future. Now, a lot of people will say, but Rucker, you've always said that AI is bad. It is. But I've also said that in echoing the perspectives of people like Glenn Beck, I've said that, look, AI, it's going to happen. AGI, ASI, these things are happening. I would much rather they be controlled by the United States rather than communist China or anybody else, for that matter. It is possible that AI advancements, because they do come so rapidly, and once they happen, they compound upon themselves, and one AI advancement can turn into 100 AI advancements very quickly. This is why we need to control our own AI destiny. Unfortunately, companies like NVIDIA are currently dominating the market, and American companies like Intel have failed. But it looks as if Intel is at least attempting to make a comeback. Article over at Reuters. Intel's new CEO plots overhaul of manufacturing and AI operations. That's by Max Cherney over there. Tan, his name is Tan. Lip Bhutan, he was the CEO, is the once and current CEO. His focus on Intel Foundry and AI chip production is rising. He aims to improve efficiencies and revive Intel's manufacturing prowess. He is the new CEO. The old CEO stepped down last week, the third CEO since Tan was in there a decade ago, and now and since then they've fallen dramatically. They've become it's to the point to where they essentially in many ways work for NVIDIA. they were once the dominant force, and now they are the little errand boys for the bigger company. And unfortunately, that company is not our company, not an American company. We are reliant on them. Now, let's say something were to happen. Let's say whether by choice or by force, Taiwan were to align with communist China. What would that do to the AI revolution here in the United States of America? And it would be very similar to what would happen to a family who was stuck at home. Let's say it's a hardcore lockdown, like a martial law style lockdown, right? We're used to, as Americans, we can go to the grocery store or go to whatever Instacart or what and just have food delivered to us, go to Grubhub, all of those possibilities. And right now, that's how the United States of America is. We need more coolers, coolant systems, more semiconductors, more chips, more whatever. When it comes to artificial intelligence, we just put in the order and it comes to us. But what if we were isolated? What if we no longer had access to Taiwan's riches when it comes to artificial intelligence hardware? It'd be very similar to a family being stuck at home and no longer having access to the grocery store. All we would have left in that situation is anything we had in the refrigerator and the cupboards. Once those were gone, we're in big trouble. And that's the same thing that will happen with artificial intelligence. Currently, we have everything that we need here in the United States, But to replenish any of those supplies, we have to go to Taiwan. If that gets cut off, we're in big trouble. Now, you would say, then what is the solution? Well, just like if you were stuck at home and you couldn't go to the grocery store, or let's say in a strange dystopian world, grocery stores didn't exist. And there was no food outside of your home. You only had what you had. In that situation, had you been building up, say, a garden, a chicken coop, something, anything that could sustain your family, then you would be able to go on indefinitely in an ideal scenario. Let's say instead of just a home where you're reliant on grocery stores, let's say you were to live on a homestead. And on this homestead, you have everything that you need. You don't really need the outside world. You can still interact with the outside world, but if the outside world were to be cut off, you would survive. Same thing needs to happen when it comes to our AI infrastructure. I'm not saying to break ties with Taiwan, because that would certainly push them and their advanced AI technology to China. They would have no other choice. What I'm suggesting is, and I think what Elon Musk is suggesting, is that we need to start now developing our own AI technological infrastructure. We need to be able to build our own chips. We need to be able to build our own coolant systems. Okay, right now, liquid cooling only accounts for about 10%, but that's not good enough. For these advanced AI chips, we're going to need more and more and more liquid cooling, and that's something we do not produce. Here in the United States, we import all of that from Taiwan. So we need to start building it here. And that, again, I'm not suggesting that we cut off Taiwan or stop importing anything, but we have to have a backup plan. Very similar to, if, going back to the homestead analogy, you can start a garden, you can get your chickens, you can get everything going. That doesn't mean that you have to stop going to the grocery store. You can still go to the grocery store, but if the grocery store were to stop, at least at that point you would have the infrastructure in place to be able to feed your family. The idea here is this, is that it takes time, whether you can't just go, oh my gosh, the grocery stores are closed, we've got 2 weeks worth of food in the cupboard, I guess we're going to have to go start a garden. That won't work. You'll die. You can't just wait until disaster strikes before starting your garden or going to get your chickens set up. Once disaster strikes, it's done. You're not going to have enough time to grow a single crop or to go acquire the chickens necessary to get that going, or cows or goats or whatever. Similar situation with the AI infrastructure. If we were to wait until Taiwan were to cut us off again by choice or by force, we couldn't build it up quickly enough. We would fall far, far behind. We would have basically just what we have here in the United States today, and it would take many months, if not years, to be able to develop the manufacturing that's required to build our own AI hardware. It's not boom, done. It's, oh crap, we need to get the right people, we need to get the right expertise, we need to get the right materials, rare earths, as a matter of fact. We need to get a whole lot of things. And that needs to start now. We can't wait for Taiwan and China to interact in some way. We can't wait for some sort of geopolitical global event that would prevent us from being able to do this. If we are going to go full force at all into the artificial intelligence world, if we're going to lead the AI revolution, then we need to be able to do it from here in the United States of America. Is the bird flu just the latest example of the powers that be attacking our food supply? I would argue that yes, it almost certainly is. Now, I'm not a doctor, not a scientist. I'm not sitting there in the laboratory looking into bird flu and trying to figure out if it was man-made or if it's, really spreading to whoever, or if it's in this milk or that chicken or those eggs or whatever. I'm not doing any of that. All I'm doing is looking at the writing on the wall. And the writing on the wall for the last few years has said, hey, they're attacking our food supply. It was Klaus Schwab. No. Sorry, it was the other guy, Henry Kissinger. There we go. His predecessor, his mentor. It was Henry Kissinger who said, who controls the food supply can control the people. And it seems as if that's exactly what they are trying to do. I'm a huge fan of, number one, freeze drying your own food, okay? If you have the time and the money, go get you a freeze dryer. You can go to jdrucker.com/harvest, jdrucker.com/harvest to get you a very high quality freeze dryer, the freeze dryer that we use in my companies. Or if you don't want to spend that kind of money, because they're pretty expensive, or you don't have the time or the energy or whatever, you don't want to do it yourself, it's time to stock up on long-term storage food. You can find 4, count them, 4 awesome options, ways that you can start to accumulate, or continue if you already started, to accumulate high-quality long-term storage food, oftentimes food that will last 25 years. Start getting it built up as best you can, because there may come a time in the not-too-distant future when acquiring food will not be as easy as it is today here in the United States of America. We're already seeing inflation. That's already hitting us. What happens if they inflate it all the way? What if they really try to make us eat lab-grown meat, quote-unquote meat abominations, or whatever, lab-grown something, GMO this, GMO that, or heck, bugs, crickets, cricket burgers. Get in line for your mealworm bread, the mealworm bread lines. Gosh, so many possible ways that they can come after us, attacking food production plants, again, bird flu, whatever. And I don't think, people, well, no, the Trump administration won't do that. I don't think this is the Trump administration, to be clear. If anything, I would say that the most likely candidate, of course, is the globalist elite cabal. Second most likely candidate would be Communist China. Okay, there's a reason why they're buying up as much farmland as possible. And for whatever reason, we've allowed that. But hey, I'm focused on the future. Go to jdrucker.com/food, jdrucker.com/food, and stock up on as much long-term storage food as you can. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be doing some, I say next couple of weeks. That's what I anticipate. It might be as soon as tomorrow. But I'm in the process of doing some research into all of this swatting that's happening. Had a couple of people over the weekend send me news stories. It's insane. I don't know if anybody fully realizes just how often this is happening now. All of a sudden, and it feels like, and this is why I want to do the research, because I don't want to be wrong about this, but it feels like over the last, 2 weeks, maybe a month, that there's been a sharp rise. I mean, like super sharp rise in the number of people, particularly conservative journalists. That seems to be the primary target right now. Conservative journalists or influencers even that are getting swatted. It seems like every single day, new videos, ring videos, more reports about this person, that person getting swatted. I remember when it's like us swatting that made news happen like once every few months, maybe. Now all of a sudden, it's like every single day we're seeing more people getting swatted. And again, it seems to be focusing on conservative show hosts or bloggers or writers, as well as conservative influencers. They're just all getting hit. All of them. It's insane. I had to warn my family just in case. We were very private, but I did have to warn my family that, hey, be careful if we could get swatted at any point. That would suck, but it could happen. So people sent me some stories over the weekend. I'm going to continue to look into it. Again, it could be as early as tomorrow, could be next week, could be the week after that. I couldn't imagine it's longer than that, but I'm trying to get a compilation of these various stories out there, because this seems, I think everybody who watches me knows that I am somewhat of a conspiracy theorist. Doesn't take a conspiracy theorist though to look at this frequency and come to the conclusion that this seems to be coordinated. This isn't just, random person in this city, random person in that city, just all happening at one time. Somebody got this big idea. No, I think this is actually the deep state trying to silence, even if it takes death by SWAT team, trying to silence conservative media, alternative media. We already had one. I don't even want to talk about that. I'm not going to bring that one up. But we have had some major and even mid-level. It's not just like, they're going after these big names. They're going after some people that I hadn't heard of before until they get swatted. Then I look into them and it's like, oh, wow, this is like a conservative commentator who has a show that airs on Rumble or whatever. It's like, wow, I didn't expect that to be the case, but that seems to be what's happening. Again, this certainly feels coordinated, but I don't want to start going down that rabbit hole. Well, I am going down that rabbit hole. I don't want to report on it until I have a better picture of what's really happening. Is this happening more frequently than before? Feels like it, but I want to make sure. Is it really just conservative and alternative media personalities and influencers who are getting targeted? Feels like it, but I want to be sure. And if that is the case, then that's dangerous. I mean, that really is dangerous because it appears that the powers that be have gotten so desperate, so they're letting their full-blown evil come out. And there's plenty of evil in this world. But I would say one of my, I hate to use the word least favorite, one of the evils that I dislike the most is cowardly attacks on somebody else's body or anything. Look, if somebody wants to say, hey, I don't like you, I want to confront you, I want to beat you up or yell at you or whatever, I can respect that a heck of a lot more than somebody grabbing a burner phone, dialing 911, giving them an address of somebody and hoping that person gets murdered by police. And it wouldn't be by police, it would be murdered by, as a result of the actions of the swatter. It's not like the police are going in there intending to murder the owners of a particular house. That's not what's happening. If it does happen, the blame falls squarely on whoever's doing the squatting. Again, feels coordinated, but I want to make sure. Feels targeted, but I want to make sure. So that's story or type of story will be coming very soon. And like I said, I say 2 weeks. For all I know, it could be tomorrow or the day after that we do this. One quick note. Somebody had mentioned this to me. It's probably been a month. A while ago, somebody had told me, you should tell people because I'll tell you the quick story. So you all remember Peanut the squirrel or chipmunk or something that got killed, confiscated because it was dangerous in New York City. And, the domesticated pet was killed because, I don't know, some weirdness, wokeness, something. I don't even know. Just police state authoritarianism, nanny state kind of stuff. Well, we had not broken the story, but we posted the video of that particular story. The very first one that came out. I mean, like within a day after the event, before it got massive, before national media picked it up. And we put it out there. We put it over on the Liberty Daily's Rumble channel. And I noticed that it got like a ton of thumbs down, And I'm like, well, it's just a news report. Why are people hating on it so much? And I went down into the comments saying, maybe expecting it to be something to the effect of, hey, it's this is a non-important story. We have bigger things to think about. Why are you reporting on this? Or, just basically condemning the spreading of the story. And like 150 comments, zero. None of them were negative in that regard. They were attacking New York. Kathy Hochul, attacking Eric Adams, attacking bureaucracy and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and everybody's fault, and this is so stupid, and this is bad, and but they weren't attacking the piece itself. So I'm thinking, why were there so many thumbs down? And somebody, a friend, told me a month ago, it's like, people don't understand how the thumbs up or thumbs down really work on, like YouTube or Rumble or any place like that. They think that if they agree with the sentiment, or if they agree, if they like the story, that they're going to give it a thumbs up. If it's a story that makes them mad, even if they agree with spreading it, even if they think, man, this story needs to get out there, this is an example of authoritarianism, totalitarianism, nanny state oppression, whatever. If they didn't like the fact that this chipmunk or squirrel or whatever got killed, they're going to give it a thumbs down. A lot of people do it like that because they don't realize what the thumbs up and thumbs down mean. I'm like, surely that's not real. But then I started looking at some of the things, and I realized, oh my gosh, he's right. When you thumbs up, particularly on like YouTube and Rumble and places like that, thumbs up or thumbs down doesn't necessarily mean that you agree with what's being said. It means that you believe that this story should be seen by more people. And a thumbs down is not saying that you disagree or that you're angry because they killed a chipmunk. It's saying that you don't think this story or this video should be seen by other people. That's it. It's a popularity contest. Okay? So when you say, oh my gosh, this makes me so mad, I'm going to give it a thumbs down. What you're saying is, this makes me so mad, I think that other people should become aware of this, but I'm going to prevent it from being seen by other people by giving it a thumbs down. Does that make sense? Are you? And the same thing, with subscriptions. People, it took me a long time because I never, for the first probably 4 or 5 years of doing this show, I don't think I asked one time for anybody to subscribe. Hey, make sure you subscribe. And then, now that we've gotten more into making this show, not just the focus of my professional life, but really the core of my livelihood. It's like, yeah, make sure to ask everybody to subscribe and to thumbs up. And in this particular case, I wanted to explain why the thumbs up are so important. Okay. It helps. It really actually does help. When you push the thumbs up button, when you push the subscribe button, if you're on one of the platforms that have the, where you can get alerts, if you push the alert button, all of this helps my channel to be able to reach other people, whether they're your friends or not, whether you know them or not. Okay? It's the way they always say, oh, it's the algorithm. Well, in this case, it really legitimately is. That's how the algorithm works. So if you would like to help, if you think that I deliver value, that the show itself, my segments, everything that I put out there, that it should be read or heard or seen by more Americans, then please subscribe and give me a thumbs up or a like or whatever. If you're on X, give me a repost, whatever, and a thumbs up. If you're on BitChute, they use they too use the thumbs up button. You get the idea. Just give me that affirmation. It's not because I need to feel good about myself. My ego is already way up there, too far up there, actually, if I'm being transparent. But yeah, it helps. I need more subscribers on all the platforms. I need more thumbs up. And you can go, if you want to say, oh, I'd love to have his show pop up on my Apple podcast. Go to jdrucker.com/find. You can find all the various places where this show is broadcast. So just a little side note there. Lord willing, I will be back very soon with another episode. But in the meantime, stay strong, stay safe, and God bless.